Greetings, 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 good people. And we are back. We took a break last week in order to acknowledge and honor Self-Preservation Week. I started off really good, but then, I got lost along the way. And so, I tried. So at some point, I'll probably share that. But for now, we're here. We're back with another edition of Cat's Corner. I'm your host, Risikat, Cat Okedeyi. And I'm super excited, as I always am, with the guests because it's just, the people that we have coming through here are just amazing. And this sister, I met last year. I went on a really quick trip to Mexico because I just needed to be by the water. I didn't have as much fun as I knew I wasn't going to have fun because I was still working, but I knew I was going to meet someone special. And the fact that I did does not surprise me. She is amazing. She is slowly taking over Mexico as the co-founder and the CEO of Black In Tulum. And if you follow her on IG, you see she lives quite the fabulous life. So we're going to get in her business, and I'm really excited to have her on board. Welcome, Nubia Younge.
Hey, what's going on, Kat?
How are you?
I'm good. I love how you said we're going to get all up in her business.
This is, that's becoming my other catchphrase. Like, I'm about to get in your business because I do feel like, I'm more responsible than Wendy Williams is with your business, but at least, we can have some transparency.
Always. I'm all about full transparency. Thank you.
So you are absolutely welcome. Thank you so much for agreeing to round out our month of women in March. I couldn't see anybody else closing this out because after meeting you, I've just been like enamored. I just totally dig what you're doing, and it has been an honor to kind of share space with you. So I usually start these off with the question, how are you today?
Today, I'm great. I am absolutely excellent today. I'm feeling good. It's a beautiful day in Playa del Carmen, Mexico. And I'm about to, once we're done, I'm hosting my Afrobeats and Bubbles event. And it's an all white affair. So to see all the melanin and white, I can't wait.
That is one of the things that I'm definitely coming to do soon. As soon as school's done and I get this personal retreat in, I'm coming to Mexico. I'm gonna be all on your couch. You're gonna be like, can you please go home? And I'm like, no.
You don't need a couch. I got a second bedroom. You got it.
So talk to me about, because you have a long history in the space of hospitality management.
Yes.
And I think that that's important because I do think that you, as a creative, oftentimes what happens is when you find a space that you think you can operate in that other people maybe haven't sort of explored yet, you end up being the blueprint. And there are a lot of Black travel groups that happen, but you've settled in Mexico for now. I know that you've done some nomadic stuff. Talk to me how you go from this hospitality world, which I suspect had sort of, a little stagnancy, stability. You were in hotels, you were in these places, to, I'm going to pack my bags. I'm just going to skip around town and skip around the world because you've been to 43 damn countries and just see what I can see. Like, how does one go from that to that?
Okay, first off, I didn't just be like, oh, you know what? Get this job. Let me pack a bag and go. The job was like, bye.
Okay.
So I was actually pushed into it, which actually propelled me to where I am today, which I'm very thankful for, right? So I was working in meeting in events. I had an event management company in Washington, D.C. I worked for corporate, took care of aerospace, basically working with like the Pentagon and clearances and doing like conferences and meetings and all that stuff, which was great because it gives you a lot of experience, Went on a vacation, girl, came back and they laid my ass off. I was like,
did they lay you off because you went on vacation? Or they hit okay, just checking.
They probably did because my behind was traveling a lot during the time that I was working.
Right.
But I went to Portugal for 10 days during the Christmas holiday. And I came back like the beginning of the new year, the first day back. And they literally was like, can you please come in my office? And I'm like, what's up?
Yeah, what are you talking about?
They was like, yo, we're restructuring, we're doing some things, so we're going to terminate this position. But they gave me a good package, which actually helped a lot because they like paid my health insurance for like 6 more months. They gave me like 4 months of like total salary. everything. So that was like my initial, like, bump this. I'm not doing this no more. I'm not, at this point I was 38 at the time, I believe, or like somewhere between, almost 38. And I was just like, I'm too old for this. Like, why is my worth so expendable to somebody else to come and tell me that I can no longer get paid? Like, I got rent, I got kids, I got responsibility. This is not how life should be. So I said, I'm never going back to a job. That was it.
Okay. That's real.
And the universe propelled everything else. From that point, there was this energetic, like, pull, I still can't name it. Maybe it was just my intuition. Maybe it was my spirit guides. I don't know what it was, but it was like, you got to go. You don't belong here. And, you being a woman who can definitely read into like ancestors and all that stuff. Like, I had my first reading done in DC, and her words were, "You don't belong here." And I was like, "What do you mean?" She was like, "You're meant to go about the world."
Right.
And I was like, wow, I'm thinking about going to Thailand. She was like, well, I don't see geographical,
Right.
But she was like, but I know you're not supposed to be like here. You're stagnant here. You need to go. And that's how it all started.
And so what does this look like? Because it's one thing to say, because this is the other thing, Black people, we don't go find ourselves. Like, that's not something that we do. And when we announce to the world that I'm going to find myself, they look at you like, find yourself where? So this idea of taking time off, and while, yes, you were pushed out and you had the ability to do it, your children were in a place where you could, leave. I mean, let's clarify that you didn't abandon your babies. You just like,
no. My oldest went to college and my youngest went to go live with dad. Yeah.
Right. So there were things in place so you could go and do this. What is it like initially? Because I've seen, and my bestie Evelyn, you all know each other. I remember when she signed up for the Nomad program, this idea that you could just bounce around to different countries and live remotely. At the time, I remember thinking, wow, that's a really dope concept. And at the time I was thinking, like, how does that work? Because it really depends on your income or your lifestyle allowing you the ability to work remotely. Now it makes absolute sense. And we'll get to that. But initially, you don't have a job tying you anymore. You've sealed off your responsibilities as a mom. You go to Thailand and what?
I didn't have no rhyme, no reason. I didn't have a plan, to be honest with you. I'm a Sagittarius woman, so I'm extremely adventurous. You already know it's Sag.
And impulsive. We're quite impulsive.
Exactly. But at the end of the day, I have faith in myself.
Right.
I had never stepped foot in Asia before I moved to Thailand. And what I did was I just said to the universe, like, for real, I was like, I'm open to whatever is brought my way. That's it. I was open to it. I'm going to go in with an open mind. I'm not coming with expectation. I'm not coming with, it has to look this way. It needs to be this way. I said, I'm open. And that was like, honey, from the point that I landed in Bangkok, right? And I decided to stay in Bangkok for a couple of days. And at the time when I started traveling, this whole Black travel movement wasn't as huge as it is today.
Right.
I joined a group called Nomadness Tribe, and I had learned a lot about traveling a couple of years prior to me leaving. So in the group, I just put a post like, hey, I'm in Bangkok. Anybody in here? Girl, do you know, I got hit up by a young Black woman who worked for the embassy. She was like, I get off of work at 4. Let's go have drinks. I said, work.
Wow.
I was like, so from day one, I met another woman of color who was actually living in Bangkok. So that opened my eyes up to a whole nother experience. Then she introduced me to other people. And once I got to Chiang Mai, it was a wrap from there. I was like, where did all these people come from? And it astonished me because I never heard any of their stories, didn't know who any of them were. They weren't necessarily in mainstream, but they had been living abroad or traveling and backpacking or doing whatever, but they were melanated. They were, some were younger, some were in their 30s, and some were in their 40s and 50s. So that's when I decided to share those stories, and I started Chronicles Abroad.
Okay. And Chronicles Abroad was I think your blog, right?
That's actually my podcast.
Your podcast, my bad.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's a travel podcast, and I wanted to share those stories because here I was about to turn 40. I was like, I was like, here I am at 39, a bride, mother,
Mhm.
employer, all that stuff, like all the responsibilities. Because all I heard about when I was researching was 21-year-olds who were like, I'm backpacking Asia with $5 a day. I can show you how to do it. And I was like,
Right.
that's not me. People
Right.
needed to see people that looked like them that they could resonate with, but there
Right.
was no outlets.
Right.
So we created it.
It's interesting. I was talking to someone recently, and I was saying that I realized that my goal, like the way that I work, is I really do want to amplify Generation X. I do think that we're like this overlooked generation. And I do think in our 40s and 50s, we're just getting started. It's this weird thing. Like we've had to marinate a little bit longer because we didn't have the tools that the millennials and whatever the next generations are called. And so we have all these ideas. I don't know the Y's or Z's. I don't know. I don't know what we're going to do afterwards. But when I think about the way that the Black travel industry or the Black travel creative space has grown, it's really impressive. I'm a kid. Anybody who's a daughter or a son of parents who worked in the airlines. I've been traveling since I was like 6. Getting
Nice.
on planes, loved it. When I was in elementary and high school, going to London to see family. So getting on plane, like I love the airports. I absolutely love airports. I love going to airports. I like sitting inside airports. I love the smell of airports because it means you're going somewhere. And so travel has been a big part of my life for quite some time. And what I found over time was that it's not accessible often for a lot of people. They think it's not accessible. So yeah, and I love that these groups are making travel accessible, but I do think there is this underbelly of privilege and downright nastiness sometimes with how these groups work. And I wonder for you, like before you start this business, because you know that you know what hospitality entails. You've gone and you've seen. Are you seeing like because the ugly American trope is real? And sometimes Black people are the ugly American. And so I wanted you to share a little bit about what it was like to be in these spaces with people that you didn't know, that you didn't have relationships with, and how they were able to be good citizens, good global citizens or not, and if that affected whether or not you were like, I really want to do this or I don't want to do this.
So, to be honest with you, at the time when I had joined these Black travel spaces, they were more like a family, to be honest with you, because it wasn't about like, oh, I want to take a weekend trip. These are people that were passionate about travel, just like you explained, passionate, like, it's in their blood. And we were sharing resources with one another. We were connecting on a whole different level because we shared something that most Black people didn't express that they enjoy, right? Because when you used to tell people, oh yeah, I want to go skiing, what? You want to do white people shit. Like it wasn't never a thing that people would, even my own grandmother was like, I ain't going on no airplane unless God gives me wings. You know what I mean? Type of thing.
Right.
Not playing. Like, so it was a beautiful thing because we had a bond, and that bond was travel. Not only was it just travel, we learned so much about how to manage our credit card so that we can travel better. We learned how to utilize things like points and how to do hacks. So we were literally educating each other. You see what I'm saying? It was a whole different feel. It didn't start getting, I would say, nasty, like really bad until about 2 years ago, where it just propelled so big and so wide that it was the wrong kind of people because they just want to come turn up. They didn't care. It wasn't a passion for them. They just wanted that picture. They just wanted to go and say they went. We didn't have that. That wasn't our life. You get what I'm saying? So it didn't start until just, I would say, very few years ago where it really became a travel shame, a thing where people would be pointing fingers. And then it started getting really nasty, like, if you don't have a passport type thing. And then that's where the privilege came in. And honestly, as a young Black traveler, we are privileged.
Mm-hmm.
We are privileged to be in other countries and be able to, you know, navigate and be able to do these things because we were taught that we weren't able to, you know?
Right. And I think, you know, I've always said that I would love for Black kids to travel sooner rather than later. Like if, you know, I wish they could do study abroads in high school where, you know, it was accessible, where they, you know, where they could afford, you know, where there was opportunity for them to go and live in other countries and see what it's like. Because I do think travel, it evolves you. It expands you. It makes you realize that you are not the only person and that America is not, you know, it's actually in a lot of ways operating sometimes as a developing country, to be honest with you.
It's a dictatorship, girl. It ain't no democracy. It's a mess, okay? It's a hot, shitty mess. And everybody outside of America looks at America as a hot, shitty mess.
Right. Like you people think that you're dope, but you ain't nothing. Yeah. And so it's helpful, I think, for me. And I love just being in places where I don't know the language and I don't know the scenery. It's a reset. And so when you are in Thailand and you are sort of living this nomad life, what are some of the things? Okay, you know, I'm going to get in your business. So it's a two-part question. What are some of the things about that you discovered about yourself that you didn't like? And what are some of the things that things that you've learned about yourself that you absolutely love?
So, you know, first, before I answer this question, I do want to touch base with what you just said about, you know, you wish that there were like abroad programs for high schoolers. There are actual high schools that will take children to other countries and study those subjects in those countries.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're studying, I don't know, marine biology, they're at the Great Barrier Reef in Australia. You understand what I'm saying? If you're studying, I mean, there are scholarships for these programs, but because a lot of people don't know these things exist, they don't know what to look for. So but they do exist. There are maybe 2 or 3 high schools that are actually study abroad programs for high schoolers. And I think it's awesome to look into. So back to your question, Thailand, and what did I learn about myself? At first it was a fun, you know, and then it had to turn into, okay, I'm on this journey. I need to learn more about myself, because one thing that people don't tell you about, right, the most about traveling as a solo traveler, you spend a lot of time alone.
Mm-hmm.
Most of us don't know how to spend time by our damn selves or what to do with that time. You learn very quickly that, you know, back in DC, I was, you know, somewhat popular, right? I had a lot of friends. I hung out. I did the happy hours. As soon as I got abroad, I didn't hear from no damn buddy. I was like, nobody's checking for me, right? That doesn't make you feel good. Then you start questioning the people that you're around. Then you start, something opens up inside of you to say, you know what? Was I really happy, or what's going to really make me happy? So a lot of tears. Mm-hmm. A lot of tears. A lot of writing. Just learning how to journal, learning how to express your feelings, because there's nobody there to listen to you. Right. So I just write in your feelings. A lot of self-care, right? Because in Thailand, you can get a massage a whole hour for like $10, $12. So that's a lot of time taking care of my body. You know, you can't really do in the States, because who the hell can afford an hour massage at $150, $200 a pop? Right. Every single time you feel a little stressed, or every time you feel like you just need to release. Right. Many of us didn't have the opportunity to do that. I took full advantage of that while I was in Thailand. So I took care of my body. I was eating better. I was actually learning how to spend time with myself and be okay with it. What I learned about myself is that my communication was very different, right? I always felt misunderstood. I always felt like, why am I not keeping these bonds, these relationships? And I was just like, you know, it's my tone. It's how I say it. It's the thing. So I started paying attention to my speech. I started paying more attention to using things like the UI, you know, concept. So instead of being like, well, you did and you did, I can say, well, I felt like, and you get what I'm saying? Yeah. It takes the sting out of the conversation. I was learning more communication skills by myself than I was with others, but it also taught me about observation, being able to sit back and just observe people a lot more. You know what I mean? When you're in a busy world, busy, you tend to miss out on shit.
Right.
I had so much more time to just sit back and observe, and I just wasn't that kind of person back in the States. So I was like, I like this. I like being able to sit down. You can actually feel more energy, you know, radiating from people, positive or negative. So I knew how to move a little bit better. And I was just becoming more sharp as an individual, you know? And then what ended up happening was, you know, I had to battle those demons that I was dealing with my own personal stuff, like my mother, you know, my children, you know, things that I was like, I had to forgive myself for, things that I had to acknowledge hurt me, you know, instead of being so angry about it, like, oh my God, all that kind of went out the window. I was no longer popping off. I was just like, you know, I'm hurt.
Right.
I'm hurt. And this is why I'm hurt, you know? But also recognizing my own shit.
Right.
Like, Nubia, you could have handled that better, or, you know, those kind of things. And I will forever be grateful for those opportunities because, you know, a lot of times we don't get those, you know?
Right. What do you think it was, though? I mean, just because you're by yourself doesn't mean that you are self-aware enough to be like, I need to change some things about myself. So what was it specifically about not being here that you think triggered this evaluation?
Well, like I stated earlier, there was this energetic pull, right? So whatever that pull was knew I needed to be in a different environment, in a different space, right? I was already having these thoughts and these kind of feelings, but I didn't know what to do with them, right? So I already started looking at people sideways a little bit, but I was like, you know, whatever.
Right.
I think that when you're just surrounded by outside noise, you know what I'm saying? It's really hard for you to gain clarity. So for me, I was already on that journey. I just so happened to, you know, have whatever it was that was pulled me to this a space where you can see, like behind me, I got Buddha, right?
Right.
You know, it's being in Thailand is such a wonderful, spiritual, yet calming place to be. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Even in the midst of the Asian chaos with the bikes and the, you know, people see it all the time. There's something about being in Southeast Asia that really can help align your whole mental, your soul, your body, your spirit. There's something there. I don't know if it's in the air. Matter of fact, it might just be in the air, because I swear I can get off a plane in America and I feel this dark gray cloud of
The ag is there. Yep.
It's there, but you get to Thailand, you feel this sense of like, you can breathe. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I felt that way when I went to Singapore for business. I'd never been that far. And I remember we got off the plane, I was like, this is a whole nother, like energetically, the shift was just immediate.
And that's what I mean. I can't really explain it. I mean, you're walking past temples and they're burning incense and they're praying, and you have like these flowers laid out in front of these beautiful statues. It's just a beautiful way of being, you know, and the practices and the principles of Buddha, you know, basically have to do with karma. You treat people like you want to be treated. You get what I'm saying? So the Thailand is known as the land of smiles. You know, people smiling at you with no teeth. You know what I mean? It just makes you smile. Like, it's just, I don't know, girl. It's energy. It's energy.
Well, you know, it leads me to the next question around, so depending on where I am. So when I go to Lagos, when I go to Nigeria, my blackness sort of falls away and I could just be Rissy. When I went to Brazil, actually, even though they made me aware of my blackness, they reminded me with some of the antics they were doing. For the most part, when I was just with the people, they thought I was Brazilian, and it was just, I just kind of was chilling. Did you feel, as a Black person in an Asian country, did you feel, you know, marginalized or, you know, treated as an outlier? I mean, because we hear oftentimes that there are certain areas that, you know, when you are visibly different, it's a little bit harder.
You know, I never had an outward racial confrontation in Thailand. You know, not only am I dark, right? I'm dark skinned, I have no hair, you know, they're not used to seeing a woman like me, right?
Yeah.
So the only time I had some outward issues was in Vietnam. And the reason why is, well, a couple places actually, but Vietnam stood out because I was asked how much, and I was like, how much what?
Right.
They thought I was an African prostitute. And I learned that a lot of African natives do go over to other countries, and the way that they make money is through sex trade. So, or you know, that whole sex trade is huge in Asia. Let's just be clear, right? Whether it's involuntary or voluntary, it's just huge. And it's something that I was very oblivious to at first. And then once you start seeing and opening your eyes, you're like, damn, this is some shit, you know? That other time I dealt with outward racism or I would say colorism was in India. And India has some of the most beautiful colors of blackness. It is amazing how they are just so gorgeously, like their melanin is ridiculous. But they know that you ain't from,
right.
They know you ain't there. And hair is a thing in India. You know, India Re says I ain't got my hair in India. That's some bullshit. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They love their hair. So to see a woman with no hair was very alarming. I believe, and I don't want to be quoted on this, but I believe that a woman that shaves her head is a widow.
Yeah, I know that sometimes they use that as a way to the hair as an offering. But sometimes it is because your husband has died, but I think sometimes it's an offering, you know, when you've gone, you know, when you're trying to like get right with the gods.
Yes, but you don't see many women in that space where I was in India. A lot of holy men, yes, but I didn't run into a lot of holy women. Where in Thailand you do see a lot of holy women, but in India I did not.
Okay.
Even with you having locks or dreads or whatever, that's not common for women.
Right.
Right. But the men who have locks or dreads usually are holy men because they've been in the, you know, they've been out serving, you know, Ganesh for so long that their hair just got knotty and, you know, stuff like that. So they're used to that, but not on a woman, no.
And so what do these experiences look like? And how do you deal with them?
India, I ran out of India, okay? I was like, I got to go because it was too much. It was too much. It was like pointing, laughing, calling me names, not like derogatory names, but more like, you know, Africa, you know, da-da-da. And I'm just like, you know, it wasn't that it was just too much. It was overstimulation. On top of cows walking down the street, dogs, monkeys, yaks, you know, noise, everything. It was just too much stimulation going on top of being this spectacle. I was like, I gotta go. You know what I'm saying? So I was run out of that country. Thailand, like I said, it was more or less just staring. You know, I had one little girl one time. She just stared at me. And so, you know, what I tell people is a smile is universal, right? So I smiled at her and she smiled. She had these everybody in Asia got braces, right? She had these braces. And I was like, you are so pretty, right? And she was like, oh my God. And then she touched my skin and she was like, my beautiful, she's never seen a Black person. She was enamored, you know, but it was something that filled her heart. She was very like, grateful to be in my presence, and that was so warming, you know. Then you had like the Chinese tourist girl; they just want to take a picture with a Black person. They were handing me their babies and shit. I was like,
When I went to China, because that trip was Hong Kong, China, and Singapore. China was like the craziest. I had never been. And I remember there was one other Black person on the trade mission. I thought he was a brother, but he was a lowercase Black, so he didn't get what I was trying to say. And he's like, because I guess they're used to seeing men, but women were something completely different. And so I had babies crying in the bathroom, like pointing at me, like crying. I had we had to stop at a village we stopped along the route at a little, it wasn't a village, but it was like a stop port before we went to the manufacturing plant. And he kept trying to tell me that he was like gaslighting me, like, oh, you're just exaggerating. People aren't treating you differently, this, that, and the third. And I was like, all right, watch this. And when we got off the bus, everybody gets off the bus. And when you can hear it. It's bustling. There's bells ringing and people hawking, and it's a whole thing. I got off the bus, complete silence. A woman who was on her bike was so busy looking at me, she ran into a wall.
Yeah.
It was the strangest thing ever. Yeah. And he's like, well, maybe you have a point. I was like, if you don't get on with this nonsense. And it was really, because I didn't know the language and I didn't really understand what they were reacting to. I assumed, as global as Black culture is, that they've seen Black people before. And, you know, that was like one of the first times that I realized that, particularly in China, that may not always be true. And then when I went to Japan, like girlfriends and I, we decided to go to Tokyo. I swear, everywhere we went, people would stop and take pictures of us. I remember once we were on the train, I kept hearing these clicking noises. I was like, what's going on? I look up and there's like 20 people on the platform taking pictures. And I'm like, well, who are they going to show these pictures to? And what are they going to say?
Well, you know, they're very much in tune with the music culture.
Right.
So especially in Tokyo, like they love hip hop and rap, girl. They love it.
There's that whole group of people that, you know, do fake tans and, you know, wear weaves.
It's a whole thing. And that's a big thing. But you said something that a lot of people don't realize is that it's not just a Black and white thing. It's a female and male thing.
Yeah.
So males and Black men in general, you know, being in the military have traveled. Yes. You get what I'm saying? So a lot of them are used to, you know, a lot of natives of different countries are used to seeing Black men.
Right.
Usually soldiers. But as women, we're an anomaly. You know, if you don't look like Beyonce,
right.
You know what I'm saying?
What's going on? Yeah.
That's their only, connection to a Black person is a pop artist or a singer. So if you don't look like that, they don't understand it because to them, that's what Black people look like.
Mm-hmm. I remember in Morocco, they kept calling me Tracy Chapman and I was like, no.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. And then for a while, people thought I was Whoopi Goldberg and I was like, I'm honored, but no, I'm not Whoopi. Oh, you're Whoopi. No. If I was Whoopi, trust me, you wouldn't get this close to me.
Exactly. Oh, they were in Thailand, Obama. I'm like, that's my cousin.
Like, no, man, that's not. So you're in Thailand, you're traveling all these places. You were in a nomad group. And was it, I think that group was pretty diverse though, right? It wasn't like a specifically Black group.
It's not specifically Black people. However, it's predominantly.
Yeah. Okay. So at what point do you think, there's something to this? This could potentially be a career change, a career pivot.
When I started Chronicles Abroad, that's when I realized that it was a thing, right? Because it was supposed to be just my co-host and I just sharing kind of our stories and kind of a few of the people that we met. And then next thing you know, we had like a year's worth of content in 3 months. It was just like people out of the woodwork. And we were like, wow, like this is crazy. Mm-hmm. So podcasting first opened me up to a whole nother realm. And then we started getting a lot of like recognition, like Travel and Leisure and being on like Nomadic Mat and stuff like that. So when we got picked up by other major publications and stuff like this, podcasting is a big thing and, you know, travel. So I was always getting emails and messages and DMs from people who were like, you know, I'm living my life vicariously through you, you know, or, you know, I really want to do something like that. I just don't know how. Right. So that's when I started moving into travel coaching and consulting. And it was just sharing my experiences and helping people to not have to go through the same obstacles that I had to go through because I learned it on my own. You get what I mean? But give them a firsthand account and give them a couple of things and steps and resources that they can use to help make their transition a little bit more effortless.
Nice. And what was some of the feedback that you were getting in just the coaching piece?
Oh my gosh. I still talk to women who literally I was talking to on like Messenger while they were in the States and I was living in Asia, who are now abroad who are like, you know, thank you. You see what I'm saying? You know, it was one of those things where it's almost like a Me Too movement. You have to share your story in order for people to resonate with your story, right? So I was only just sharing my story. My shit is not curated. My stuff is like real. I'll tell you if I'm having a good day, a bad day, what happened, what didn't happen. So a lot of people are like, yo, I just really love your transparency, you know? And I realized that the people around me who were doing similar things were very much only talking about what they depicted as the positives. And I'm like, but there's other shit going on. Like, I don't want to sound like a Debbie Downer, but can we get people to real? You know? And it just became a thing because people were asking for what they wanted. And I was starting to listen.
And so when you start to realize that this is something that you can transition to, and you can, let's talk about charging. How did you figure out how to charge for the information, the very customized information you were able to give people? Like, how, because I know that you know, sometimes as creatives we just give it all away. We're just so excited to share. We just be like, here, take this, take that. And before you know it, you've basically consulted someone into their new lifestyle, and it's great, but you know, you got to eat too.
I did that for the first 3 years.
Okay.
So I didn't charge. I gave everything away from free. I had that hashtag sharing is caring. I was doing it. But I also had people around me that were like, especially even my podcast co-host, she was like, Nubia, you're a wealth of knowledge. It started getting overwhelming for me because I almost felt like nobody cared about who I was. They just wanted the information that I had to share, right? So there was points where that brought me down to tears because I was just like, am I valuable in any other sense? Like, or am I not valuable if I can't give you what you want? You see what I'm saying? So there was a lot of questioning of my worth around that. There was a lot of what people would call imposter syndrome. Like, why would I charge for something that they can find on their own on the internet? Well, it's because they're not researching. They don't want to research. They really want to hear what you have to say. And I didn't come to terms with that until maybe about a year and a half ago.
Wow.
Yeah. It wasn't until about a year and a half ago where I finally had people around me that was like, stop it. You got to eat too. Stop it. And they were telling me to charge like these huge astronomical amount of money. And I'm just like, nah, because I remember what it was like looking for information or wanting to ask somebody a question and they hit me with a quick like PayPal link. I didn't like the way that felt. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll talk to you. I might even answer a question, but you're not going to berate me with 15, 16, 25, 50 questions. Now that's when I'm like, okay, hey, this is a profession and I will hit you with my PayPal. I have to.
I mean, this is important because I do think, one, that people assume a couple things about travel. After I did 2 trade missions, I was like, this is too much work, because you're dealing with personalities, and you are having to account for people's idiosyncrasies, because people show you who they really are when you travel with them. Like, you may think you know someone, but you really don't know them until you get on a plane and you leave this country. I've seen people do complete 180s. I'm like, I don't even know who you are anymore. Like, what just happened? So when you are making this decision, because before it's coaching, but then it's now like, how do you transition into bringing people to a certain place? How do you transition into, because, you know, there's the community that you've built online that are aspirationally looking at your life and thinking, oh, I really want to do that. And then there are the folks who just want to turn up, you know, they want to come, you know, spend their dollars because their dollars have a little weight in this country, and then they want to go home. And so how do you start making the space for the actual accommodating of people coming?
I wish I could tell you. Listen, Black In Tulum was something that fell literally like in my lap, no lie. Like, I was going back to Asia, you know, from Mexico, and got quarantined here. So during that quarantine time, everything was like boiling over all around the world, right? All around the world, everything was boiling over, and then the whole world seemed to stop. So there was a point where it was just like I missed human interaction. Like I don't want to have a Zoom call anymore. I didn't want to, you know what I'm saying? Like I wanted to actually sit across the damn table from somebody or go take a walk or do whatever. So I had a brunch. That's it. I had one simple brunch. 8 people showed up and we had a good time. The next, and they were like, yeah, we should do this again. And I was like, yeah, we'll do this again. And it just morphed. It just morphed into something that started so small and so innocently. And I wasn't even charging. Girl, I didn't start charging for my events until I think December. And I had started Black In Tulum in July because it was never, to me, supposed to be business. It's always been a community.
Right.
And all I wanted to do was have a space that we can all connect, break bread, and enjoy time together. That's it, in Tulum. And so I had another brunch. It was maybe 25 people. And I was like, listen, guys, if I start a Facebook group, would y'all support me? That's all I asked. They were like, hell yeah, this is what's up. Let's do it. I was like, okay, what should I name it? I'm literally asking them at the brunch, what should I name it? And I just looked around. I was like, we're Blacks in Tulum. And so I was like, simple, Black in Tulum. And I started Black In Tulum in July of 2020. And it has grown today to 13.7 thousand people.
It's amazing.
Girl, it's still one of my friends say, like, you crying yet? I cry every time I think about it because it was something that I didn't market. I didn't, push. I didn't ask for people to join. It was the word of mouth of people who had some kind of interaction with me or my event, who felt like they were a part of a community, which is what it was all supposed to be about. You get what I'm saying? It wasn't until I had maybe my 4th or 5th brunch where, and I love him to death. His name is Norman. And I'm going to give him a shout out because he's the one that propelled me to wanting to create this as a business.
Right.
Nubia, this is amazing. And he goes, well, how are you making money doing this? I said, I'm not. I was like, I just love to see us here. He was like, I would pay to come to this brunch. I would pay, he was like, this is a dope. And I was like, you would? And I was like, you would? He was like, look around you. He was like, you think we would have all just found each other? He was like, you all together. We're sitting in front of the Caribbean Sea. We're having, fried fish and lobster and all types of stuff. And we're connected and we're vibing and you put this together. And I was like, wow. Wow. So that's where it started.
And so, I love stories like this because I think it's such a sad thing to do, like to put some things together because you just want your people around you and then it turns into, hey, you should charge for this. But I'm wondering for you, and I'm asking for 2 reasons. 1, because I know the answer, but 2, because I do think it's important. Like, I want to dispel the myths around because people look at your life and they think, oh my God, she's on the beach, she's doing this, she's doing that, it's fabulous. And they don't really understand how much hard work goes into actually making these things happen. I also don't think that people, because whenever I would, when I used to do like events, people didn't understand that like, this is my job. So like, what I'm doing right now is work. Like I made 2-step, come over and hug you and say hello, but I'm moving around the room because I got to check on people and make sure things are good. And at some point, people they never have sight of it or they lose sight of it. And I wonder for you, because things have moved so quickly and the context of a pandemic, at some point a friend was like, yeah, I'm going to Mexico. Apparently all the Black people are going to Mexico. I was like, what are you talking about? And then, I see Sheree Robinson from Tastemakers Africa in Tulum, and I see some other people in Tulum. I was like, well, what is going on? And why Tulum? So first of all,
when I showed her around.
Oh my God. Why Tulum? And what is it about Mexico because there's a history of Black folks hanging out in Mexico that we really don't talk enough about. And I'm just wondering for you, what was it that made you go? And yes, the quarantine made you stay, but what made you think I could build something here?
Initially that wasn't the thought. You know what I'm saying? When I came to Mexico, it was by chance, by accident. I was dating somebody who lived in the States and they wanted to try their hand at living abroad. And I was like, well, I'm definitely not taking you on the other side of the world to Asia. So Because like you said, you get to know people when you travel. And
they change up, child.
God forbid it doesn't work out. It's going to take you 2 days to get home. Like, I need you to get on a flight. So I said, how about Mexico? It's close enough, whatever. I bought the tickets. They didn't come. So I was like, well, I'm out.
Right.
I went on my own. And like you said, there was already a community here of people of color who were living here. I had met maybe about 30, 40 people during my times in Playa del Carmen. I went to Tulum because I randomly heard about it. But whenever I looked it up, all I seen was white people, Black people. And when I moved to Tulum, I moved because it was such a untouched. It felt so untouched. It felt so like jungle vibe. It was like, I love nature. I love greenery and trees, and I just love that, right? Plus you have the water, so I turn around. On one side I got the ocean, on the other side I got a jungle. I was in my zone. You know what I mean? So I wanted to share that with others because it was so beautiful, Tulum has its ups and downs. Their Wi-Fi is horrible, stuff like that. So I realized shortly into my stay of living in Tulum that it wasn't going to be sustainable for me to live because I needed things like Wi-Fi to do interviews and to talk and have my consultations and things like that. So I moved to Playa del Carmen, but something kept pushing me to Tulum. And basically, I think it was a mixture. Nipsey Hussle in his song, was it The Marathon?
Mm-hmm.
When he talks about being in Cancun, smoking a spliff at the ruins in Tulum, people heard those lyrics and wanted to see and be where Nipsey was when he showed it in his video.
Right.
And so that helped. A couple of celebrities had already been frequenting Tulum. So it wasn't until Megan Thee Stallion, I think, came. It was her. And she was at this restaurant called Taboo. And I don't know, but if any of Megan's people are talking, y'all need to contact Taboo because they owe you a bunch of fucking commissions. After she went to Taboo. And
everybody went to Taboo.
Girl.
Yeah.
Twerking on the chairs, everything else. That's where the dynamic shifted, to be honest with you. It shifted. It shifted from coming and just vibing to coming and wanting to turn up. Because all seen on that video was turn up.
Right.
So, some of the restaurants in the different places was like, well, there's money in these turn ups. Yeah.
You will let them dance on the furniture if it gets us some loot.
Some loot. Okay, and big loops at that. So people started coming and turning up, and now you walk down the streets of Tulum, you hear nothing but hip hop, R&B, reggae, Afro beats, and I'm just like, wow, this is so different. You know what I mean? I do play a hand in that. I have to be honest, but the thing about it is, when I started throwing events, they weren't a turn up. They were literally like us just vibing together, just having a good old time. We weren't doing the most, you know what I'm saying? Now, some of my events, we can get down, but other times it's more or less, you'll see us doing the electric slide or the wobble or, just really just like having that old school, Black person barbecue, but on the beach. You get what I'm saying? And that's kind of the vibe I wanted to share, was like a family reunion instead of a club. This is why most of my events are day events.
So do you find that the shift now, there's definitely a cultural shift, I would say, with what you're talking about. I wasn't there long enough to see much. So outside of the day that we spent together was fantastic. And I was like, I wish I'd met Nubia sooner. But when you think about the way things have shifted since you've been there, do you worry that that turn up culture is going to damage sort of because I'm not impressed with turn ups in other countries so far. Like, I just feel like what it looks like is just a mess. And so when I travel and I do go out, I just want to have a really good time. And so I try to avoid the places that are popular and just go to the spots that are like holes in the wall, because usually you're just going to have a good time. But do you find that this turn up culture, especially in the midst of a pandemic, especially where people are Instagramming their experiences to be able to say, yeah, I know it's a pandemic, but I'm out in these streets. Do you find that is that good for business, bad for business?
A little of both. So to answer your question about the pandemic portion of it, okay, I've gotten a lot of backlash about that, right? Like,
Right.
here you are hosting events during a pandemic. My thing is, what are you going to keep us locked up for however long? Like, at the end of the day, people are still moving about, whether I'm doing something or not. You get
Right.
what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm providing what I call a safe space for people to come and party, because
Right.
I'm still abiding by the occupancy requirements of the venue, right? Because all I'm doing is working with the Mexican people, helping them make money. Period.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? So when I have an event, I got my donut lady comes through. She's like, Nubia, thank you so much. I'm putting money into the economy. Period.
Right.
I don't care what anybody got to say. I'm working with Mexican business owners. I'm working with local Mexicans that are welcome into my establishment to do all different kinds of things, services. They do. I mean, my nail tech was able to make so much money that she got a brick and mortar. You know what I'm saying? Our masseuse lady stays busy with the Black community. Our, cleaning people, we circulate the services of the Mexican locals amongst our community,
right,
to help them make money and for us to actually have good service as well. So I'm not doing anything that is against something. You get what I'm saying? If we're on a yacht and the yacht holds 100 people, I'm only putting 50 on there.
Right.
Because I'm abiding by the occupancy guidelines. We're giving you hand sanitizer. You're walking in the establishment with a mask on. People are not seeing all those things, nor do I have to explain all those things, because the people who are purchasing tickets to come to the event are coming because it's something that they need.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I mean?
I'm picking up what you're putting down. All right. I mean, and do you think, there's been a lot of shaming of folks who insist, because even when I went to Mexico, I didn't post about it. I knew I needed to just get away. I knew Mexico was easy. It was close. It wasn't requiring a bunch of, hoops to jump through, and I could just go real in and out. And I definitely felt safe while I was there. But do you think about that? Do you consider that in terms of whether or not you're going to do something? Like, how well is Mexico tracking its numbers, for example?
How well is America tracking its numbers? Let's be clear, that part. So whenever somebody from America asks that, I'd be like, listen, check your back door, sis. Don't go to Mexico. Check where you are. You know what I mean?
Ooh, you didn't have to go that hard. I was just asking a question. I mean, dang.
No, it wasn't directed to you.
But
that's the truth of the matter. You know what I mean? America is at the top of the nonsense list. So at the end of the day, with the whole having to be tested before you can travel back, that has been I think they should have been doing that from the beginning.
Yeah, agreed.
But, overall, Mexico's doing as much as it can to do what it can. Certain places in Mexico are still kind of under a restriction, like Mexico City. It has 3-point-something million people in the city, so it still has a lot more restrictions than something like a Playa del Carmen or Tulum. What people don't understand is Tulum is small, okay? It literally was built to hold about 15,000 people. Yes, there is about 50,000 there right now, but the point is, it's not a major city, so you don't have the astronomical numbers as you would in other places.
Right. Is Mexico it for you in terms of, I don't know, I'm just asking.
I don't know what it looks.
I mean, you done started a whole company. So, like, is there, let me rephrase the question. Actually, it's a 2-part question. Do you see yourself ever coming back to live in the United States?
Under the right circumstances, maybe.
Maybe.
Okay. By that, like, marriage, all that kind of stuff, maybe. You know what I mean? Will I always travel? Most definitely. I don't care if I planted myself in one place. I'm still going to be going to other places. So travel is a part of my DNA. But yeah, if I lived in the States for any reason, it would be because of my partner's job or, circumstance, whatever. But that would be it.
Okay. And do you, as far as sort of where you are right now, Mexico, it looks good on you, I have to tell you. I mean, It does. I mean, with everything that's happened, it looks. I mean, it's still popping. You look fantastic.
It's because I don't let other things interfere with the bigger picture. You know,
Right.
there's so much. People think I am Black in Tulum. I'm not. I just founded it. Black in Tulum is a generated community. You know, I tell all my members when I see them, they're like, "Oh my God, Miss Black in Tulum." I'm like, "No, girl, you Black in Tulum. There is no Black in Tulum without y'all."
Right.
So at the end of the day, I am just the person that facilitated it in the beginning. I'm working very hard to build a self-sustaining business. So even when I decide to leave Mexico, there will be Afro beats and bubbles. There will be a welcome to say. There will be it doesn't need my presence. You get my presence is welcomed when it's there, but it doesn't require it, and that's what I'm working towards.
This is goals. This is absolute goals. I'm so incredibly proud of you. We have, of course, run out of damn time. So I didn't get to ask all my questions. We might have to do a part 2 for sure. But what, people can reach you by checking out your they can follow you on I Am Nubia Young and Black In Tulum. So
Black In Tulum is actually a Facebook group, you know what I mean? And I tell people to join the group as much. Please join the group because there's a wealth of information there, or you can go to blackintulum.com, and from there you can see our calendar of events. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram. Soon we'll be on Clubhouse. We're just, just growing and doing the most. I love it.
I love that you're doing the most. It's fantastic. And, without you, I wouldn't have had at least one good day in Mexico. So thank you very much for that. I will definitely be back to partake in the Nubia experience with the parties, and because Afro Beats and Bubbles sounds like so much fun. I just want to, I really want
to do that. Getting it. You understand?
I just want to be there, just, shaking and grooving. That's all I want to do.
And that's all it is. People be there, seat with their mimosa, and just getting it. Great music, great vibe. You can't beat the atmosphere. Come join us, And we're not a 20-something group. I'm 43 years old. At the end of the day, I'm somebody's auntie. And so I'm not on the chairs twerking. But, we do have our little twerk sesh just to get people,
Remind them and get them ready. Understood.
Ready. But most likely it's just good old fashioned fun. That's it.
All right. Well, thank you so very much for sitting with me today. I know that you're a very busy lady, so I appreciate you taking the time out. It means a great deal. Have a great event tonight or this afternoon in a few hours.
A few hours? Now,
because you're moguling. Thank you, Nubia Young. Thank you for everyone who was able to catch the live. If you are new to this, please make sure that you subscribe. I'm trying to remember to say that to the YouTube channel. We'll be back next week with a new set of guests for the month of April. We're calling Music and Mayhem. It's going to be fun. Oh, we're going to have fun. That one's going to be so much fun. We're going to have a great time. So with that, we are out. Thank you so much for tuning in. This culture ain't going to make itself, so we got to go. See you all soon.
Peace. Thank you, Kat.
Thank you.